welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. This is a live, hopefully slightly interactive, maybe very interactive, podcast recording for our podcast, Trending in Education. I'm Mike Palmer, joined by my partner in crime, Brandon Jones. Brandon, how are you?
I'm quite well, thanks. So this is the format here. Everybody who we're looking at, you're all in person. We're also going to be presenting this in two other formats, one video, and then also audio. As Mike was saying, we have a weekly podcast called Trending in Education, where we talk about trends in education. We've been doing it for about 2.5 years, and this show I think will be dropping next Tuesday. So
correct.
You can both participate.
Yes.
In fact, let's see if we can make some ambient noise out there. So how's everyone doing at South by? That's good. Ambient noise was my nickname in high school. So,
it's the best.
But I feel like this is good. So you can both participate and then also listen back next Tuesday when the show drops.
Absolutely. And as if that weren't enough, we are also joined by a wonderful guest.
Ashley Mannka, Director of Learning Products at ACT. Ashley, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the warm-up phase of the podcast where we're going to just have a casual conversation about how what's going on.
Yeah, so far so casual.
One observation.
Really casual.
One observation.
I feel very comfortable.
That's good.
That's fantastic. I live in Brooklyn, okay? I'm coming to Texas for a conference in the beginning of March. Initially, I'm thinking I'm going to be able to be comfortable. I'm going to be warm. I'm going to be able to enjoy the warmth that is Texas. It's freaking cold here,
Yeah,
right?
it's cold. It's cold.
It's really cold. That's why, I'm layering up. I'm on stage and I'm layering up.
So for our listeners who are just listeners, and they're out there ambiently again, you can't see Mike, but he's got multiple layers going on here.
Yeah.
You got a hat?
I got a hat.
A hoodie? A blazer?
Blazer.
Yeah.
All that thing. And my hat, it's a Mets hat. And just for this South by Southwest EDU, I'd like you all to, rather than refer to it as STEM, I'd like you to refer to it as Mets, because the Mets are a wonderful team that we all would like to get behind. So for those of you who are willing to work with me, I'll be referring to it as Mets from here on out.
I think you got as many hisses as you did woos on that.
It's all about engagement.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, it's generally the way I think
There's no bad
about
engagement.
So Ashley, what do you think? What are your general impressions? Any warm-up things you're noticing? What's going on these days?
Yeah, no, just really happy to be here. Third time at South by Southwest Education. Always a good conference. I did learn yesterday that they have doubled numbers in registration here. So really excited to see a lot of the work that I work on at ACT under our learning products are some of the big trends and even tracks here. So really looking forward to the next couple days.
Outstanding. And just so happens we're going to talk about some of those trends right about now.
We are. So for those of you in the room, you'll see a screen change here. So we have another opening slide here. Down at the bottom, there's a way to follow us and find us. So on Twitter at Trending in Ed and at www.trendingineducation.com. So for those of you who aren't yet listeners, we love our listeners.
We do.
And especially our future listeners, proto-listeners. So if you'll check that out and find us and yourselves online. As Mike said, we were going to talk about some trends. So we have here, this is courtesy of Edward Surge. He's always scooping me.
He's a sharp cat.
Yeah. Now from Ed Surge, these are the tags. The Ed Surge article scraped all the metadata from this conference, and these are this is the list of what's trending in education as per South by Southwest EDU. So this is the list of the top dozen or so trends. I thought we would talk for a few minutes about what we see on this slide.
Yeah, and we thought, especially with our guest Ashley here representing ACT, a lot of these themes I think are consistent with some of the stuff that you're doing as the Director of Learning Products there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I look at this list, almost all of them jump out to the work that we're currently doing and the work that we're on the road ahead for. I think professional development is one of the key things. Not surprising, it's on the top of the list here. We are all at an education conference, bringing teachers, education professionals, for-profit, private sector all together. But that's something that we focus in a lot on at ACT in our product group is really getting out and learning what our customer needs are. Our customers are K through career career working with folks inside education, outside education, with, our core products with assessment, and then outside of that in workforce and, again, learning products. And so I think professional development is one of those that we always hear we need more of. So we like to say, so what, now what? So you have a product or you have a solution, so now what? What do I do with that? What does training look like? What is that continuation on? I get a report or I get a piece of curriculum, I teach it in the classroom, but what does this mean? So it's definitely something we are very actively looking at. Another one here that really hits home, I work on some of our free resources as well over at ACT. So ACT Academy is a K through 12 free solution of learning, OER resources, and we just implemented the RAD API. And basically what this does is it takes a student's progression through the OER resources and then goes ahead and gives them suggestions and recommendations based on where they're at with learning, but taking a holistic view of not just that one lesson or Quizlet that they did, but taking that even farther, and once they master the skill, it drops off the list and they put another in. And so really just taking that, personalized learning and interventions for the individual even farther. So
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on for days here.
Well, I think we'll all go on a little, and those of you in the audience, if anything strikes your fancy, that we'll be opening up to a little Q&A at the end. So if you have any observations, we'd love to hear those. I mean, EdTech is kind of running things here. So there's a lot of ed tech represented here. I think it gets interesting when you start scanning down through this list, some of the, diversity as the number 3 topic. Storytelling, I think, is another thing that's really interesting. These are themes we've talked about a lot on the show. Brandon, any of these jump out?
I did want to mention storytelling. At the keynote this morning, which I thought was great, David Brooks talked about, had the line that a community is a group of people organized around the same story. And I thought that was a pretty powerful comment. And I think that is true, and I'm glad to see that represented among the themes here. I think that how those stories are told, what the diversity of voices are telling those stories, that comes out in some of these other notes as well. But I've often said, and I've said to you both probably on the show and off the show, that life is just sort of the stories we tell ourselves, and I think that's true, and I think that comes out here as well.
Yeah, interestingly, podcasting did not make it.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
So it was number whatever that is, 14.
Yeah.
Podcast with 75 references.
And I do know that
it's gonna come. I feel it after this.
Coming.
South by 2020.
Absolutely,
it's coming.
And we like to talk about the zeitgeist. And I think part of the zeitgeist is what's emerging. It's not even what's already prevalent, because a lot of these things were probably on South by Southwest EDU a year ago. It'd be interesting to see how these things change over time, and what's not cracking the top 15 or so here that's actually going to emerge in subsequent years. So this is based on the tags that we saw from all the presentations here at South by Southwest. We also have our own set of trends that we're tracking.
We sure do.
Yeah, you wanna take a look at them?
We sure can.
All right.
So this is the title of this slide here is Learning and Education March Madness. So we every year, around about March, in keeping with the NCAA tournament, do a March Madness where we pit the 16 trends that have been most popular in our own shows based on the listenership, number of downloads, against one another. And then we go through a round of voting where people can fill out brackets. There's actually brackets that are both live, and I think there's a guy in the back of the room, Dan Strafford, wave your hand. This is going to be great for audio here, who has paper copies. You actually can fill out a bracket today. This is the semi-interactive part of this session. But every year we do this.
Yes.
So do you want to talk a little bit about March Madness past?
Sure.
In trending and education, and then we'll get to some of these trends.
Yeah, and you can also submit your predictions online, and then we're gonna run the tournament this month, and then the winner will emerge, just like in the NCAA basketball that's running at the same time.
And the winner of the trending and education March Madness wins no $1,000. So
correct.
It's a prestigious prize.
Yes.
So we're all disqualified, so sorry, Ashley.
You know, we should actually talk about that, though, at ACT. We do have a credentialing service called Vault, so we could do some micro-credentialing, some badges certifications for folks. So the winner, we might want to pull that in.
I like that. We'll revisit that. Let's talk about March Madness has passed.
Yeah, so the first year we did this 2 years ago, we had 16 teams. Each year we've done 16 teams. Maybe we'll go 32 next year, who knows?
But probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So we did 16 teams the first year. One side of the bracket was artificial intelligence. The other side of the bracket, the winner was the importance of teachers. And then we ran our Twitter poll to see who would win. And they wound up tying 4 consecutive times.
We ran a Monte Carlo simulation, the whole thing.
We did the whole 9 yards.
All turned out to be just an actual dead heat.
Dead heat. So then we realized, somehow you got to blend the human with the artificial intelligence, and that was the winner our first year. How about our second year? Because I think you played a pivotal role in our second year.
Yeah. So second year was a term I coined, kid solving, which is you can probably figure it out from the term as coined. It's kids solving things. So kids solving, kids problems, kids solving, not just kids problems, but adult problems. I think we're coming around to understand that younger people are just more capable. They're savvier learners, consumers, creators, and I think that we will continue to look to younger and younger people to not just solve problems for their generation, but solve problems, sort of for the world. So that was kid solving, and that ended up being the winner last year.
Yes. Did it beat fake news?
I think it beat everything else.
Yeah,
it was a winner.
I remember,
it beat 15 other things.
Fake news was a dark horse that got a lot of love and attention last year. And then we did another year's worth of shows, and then based on the shows, we came up with these brackets. Like I said, we'd love to hear anybody's questions or thoughts about any of these topics, anything we talked about. But with an illustrious guest joining us on stage, Ashley, any general impressions around the March Madness that you're seeing before you?
Well, so first I have some questions because I always have questions. JOMO, this is a new term, joy of missing out.
Yeah, and
elaborate, please.
And interestingly, that term is even missing the end of its parenthetical
on
our bracket, so we thought that was very apropos. JOMO is like a next-gen version of FOMO. So FOMO is the fear of missing out. JOMO incorporates the idea of intentionality. So I'm choosing not to do this thing, and I'm enjoying it. On a personal note, I've talked about it a little bit on the show, like I deleted my Facebook account in March. And then since I deleted my Facebook account, I got married, I went on a honeymoon, I had a baby. So all those things not necessarily correlated.
Before you were single, so you deleted your Facebook account and
everything
then immediately,
changed.
yeah.
Everything changed. So just
it's been a good year.
An audience of, a sample size of 1, but it was an interesting change. So it's the idea of more intentionality. A lot of these, there's like a theme here around maybe getting away from the digital, finding some quiet places within. I know you're a big mindfulness person, right?
I am, yes, personally and professionally. I have the, excitement and joy every day to work on our social emotional learning product line at ACT. And this is something that we've been doing for quite some time, and we actually go K through career with this, because social emotional learning is something that personality continues to develop and evolve over time. So you really never stop growing in a lot of those traits that, are behavioral skills in nature, but you need those to be successful in the workplace and beyond and in life. And that's what, really continues to move folks forward, even more so than some of those core academic skills we're finding more and more in research. So, and I also always love some quiet time of my own and some yoga, and I think there's also some things that you do to find that mindfulness within the context of work as well. I also, one of these that really sticks out and excites me to see up here is the whole teacher movement. Because again, I think if I am channeling, lots of interactions that I've had with our customers and even, teachers, counselors, and things like that, it's not just about what goes on in the classroom and they're teaching to tests or teaching to curriculum, but it's also making sure that that educator feels sound background in what they are doing, and especially around that context and theme of social emotional learning, that's something that a lot of people talk about. And again, going back to the so what, now what, it's like, okay, I understand this concept, I'm going to bring it into my classroom, but I don't understand it as an individual, or I don't partake in some of these things. So that whole teacher movement really encompassing, the holistic teacher to look at, better value for the student and what they can do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even during the keynote this morning, there was a lot of talk about the epidemic of social isolation. And one of the things we talked about a lot around teachers is how, even though you have a lot of agency within your classroom, frequently you can feel isolated and alone, and like, how do we as a culture provide teachers the right level of support? And then how do we as, organizations like Kaplan or ACT or South by Southwest EDU, how do we design products and services that can actually, meet the teacher where she is, and not just think about the cognitive side, think about like the whole person. Our March Madness launches tomorrow.
True.
There's a show dropping. You guys get an early indication. If you want to get in, you can start making your predictions. Any thoughts just around our brackets and how it relates to what you're seeing here at South by Southwest?
Yeah, I think we should talk about a bunch of these things.
Please.
Because this is what we're doing. Like this is the thing we're talking about. Is what's trending in education. So I'm just going to pick on a couple, and then you can maybe riff as well.
And our countdown timer isn't working.
It says 30 minutes, so we've got another 30 minutes here.
Keep going.
This is going to be perfect.
Yeah, which is fine.
This is the Interminable
all night
podcast.
long.
If you've ever listened to anything, it's just going to be this.
Got it. So
just to jump in, maybe I'll take a couple. Oh, look, it's going very fast now.
Oh my God.
This is like time passes faster as you age. So one is Fortnite Fallout. First of all, our producer here, you got to get right with the right spelling of Fortnite. It's Fortnite. So this is someone.
I think that might have been me, but we'll blame Dan.
Yeah,
Dan, our stalwart producer.
That guy in the back.
Dan, what's up with that?
This is going to be great for
Copy
audio.
edit me better, bro.
I live under a rock. I don't even know what Fortnite is.
Oh, boo.
Interesting. Well, it's falling
I
out.
literally just booed our guest. I'm so sorry.
It's on its
we
way
can cut
out.
this. We can cut this all in post, Dan.
Yeah, but please.
So Fortnite Fallout NITE. So this was one of my predictions for 2019 was, so Fortnite, folks know what Fortnite is, seeing some nods.
No, please explain.
So it's a game. It's a massive multiplayer game, has a bunch of different modes, and it's all the rage. So it launched in September of 2017, and Epic Games, which is the maker of Fortnite, their valuation is now like $8 billion as a result of it. It's making $1.5 million of profit a day.
Huge.
It's free, so it's all just in-game purchases.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting. There's Fortnite imitating life, imitating Fortnite. It's interesting. The Fallout part is Fallout is actually another video game. That's not what I'm referring to. But the Fallout here is there's got to be something next. Like I think things. One, there's a cynical view is just that things can't stay that popular that long with sort of the generation that this is serving. And then second, my hope is that there's something that's a little bit less confectionery, that, and Fortnite Creative is actually a mode where it's like Minecraft. It's more around building and inviting friends into your community to see what you've built. My hope is that that's going to be something that these really savvy consumers, makers, who are the population that's playing it today, demands. So
It's also interesting talking about kid solving too, because like Fortnite began with 13, 14-year-olds, and now like you played, I know Dan's played, I haven't quite played it yet, but like in some ways we're following the kids into Fortnite.
Yeah.
And they're kind of poning us to use.
They're poning us, for sure. Yeah. My excuse is it's just research. Like I want to stay in the zeitgeist, and so my hours of Fortnite are just research based. Maybe let's talk about Kid Solving made the list again, so I think we have some continuity along with some new things.
Defending champ.
The Gartner hype cycle.
Can we go back to Fortnite though?
Yeah, of course.
Now that I know all the things about Fortnite and I'll go download it on my phone, it'd be an interesting matchup here to see our Fortnite Fallout and screenlessness.
Yes.
Right.
Because diving into that, it'd be interesting to see demographics. The more and more screen time we have, the more and more we're going digital, and education tools and resources. We're all on our phone, but there is a need for screenlessness and changing in that dynamic. So that would be an interesting one to see potentially match up.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about, there's been a lot of research around screens lately, and did a really interesting show a while back about the screens and the socioeconomic divide, so that typically the folks who are opting out of using screens are higher socioeconomic status, like children of Silicon Valley. Another sort of sobering thought is like a lot of the folks who are running the Facebooks and the Googles of the world are choosing to educate their kids off of screens. And then a lot of folks who really are just getting access to a mobile phone are not necessarily, they don't necessarily have the resources to get their kid off of a phone because maybe they're juggling multiple jobs and also just making ends meet. So there's an interesting trend emerging around the use of screens, and it's tied to who has access to it and then who's opting out, which again ties a little bit to the JOMO. So it's all like a big gumbo. All of these themes are interrelated.
Yeah, just one more beat on that, on the screenlessness, that I'm going to say just the same thing you said, but just to say it from me too.
Yeah.
It is interesting that for a while the thought was the way that you address the digital divide is just putting devices in schools. And so that was like a movement that took a while. There had to be funding, and they had to be, you had to get them for the schools. And by the time that we sort of caught up to that, we've realized that's actually not the problem. So technology in the classroom should be a means, not an end. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's been, I think in too many schools, it's been seen as an end, not a means. Mm-hmm. And so you now have a lot of product, a lot of hardware in schools, especially lower socioeconomic schools, schools with that demographic, and it's not enough. And it probably never was going to be enough, but it's just like, it's taken us until we got there to realize that wasn't going to be enough. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and one thing we talk a lot about on the show is the difference between technology-driven innovation and technology-enabled. So like, the idea that you have screens, and that screens, by virtue of being digital and giving you access to the internet, will make your classroom better. I think the jury's still very much out on that. I think it probably depends on how you're intending to use it. How are you incorporating it into your lesson plan? And ideally, not every lesson is driven by the fact that the students in the class have access to an iPad or have access to a smartboard. They're all just tools, and technology, even like this show, is just a tool that is allowing us to convey this stuff. Other thoughts? The clock is working now, so
it is. I got to do two more here real quick.
Yeah.
So robots.
Yeah.
First of all, robots, right? Someone clapped for robots. That's great. There are robots here at South by.
Oh my God!
Did you interacted with the Lovebot?
Yeah. The Lovebot is right out here. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
See the little round one
God, it's
cruising around.
They're designed to make you happy. Like that's the entire design intent. Like they're plush. They have big eyes. They respond to you. If you smile at it, it smiles back. It'll like roll over to you and look at you. You can like pet it, and it got warm. I couldn't tell if it got warm.
Was that a malfunction of the robot?
It might have been the battery was getting hot, but I thought it was because I was giving it nice affection. But it is interesting when you think about the robot overlords, and you think about sort of Terminator. Name your Terminator. They're all scary, but these things are almost like next gen, like social emotional toys. And we talked about some of the therapeutic uses of those types of toys as well, where like, when folks are suffering, frequently like you bring in a pet or you bring in something that gives them comfort. I think, for those of you who are here, the Lovebot is a pretty cool little interactive engagement right out here in the Expo Hall.
Yeah, this is Trending in Education brought to you by Lovebot.
Lovebot.
But go check it. To be clear, though, I think that the Terminator robots always follow the lovable robots.
Yeah.
Right. The lovable robots. That's like the gateway drug to the Terminator. So, maybe it won't be. Our future is yet unwritten.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, going with the robots, thinking about where we're at in life. To make your life easier too, I just purchased an iRobot vacuum cleaner. Jury is still out on that. However, again, things that spark joy.
Yes.
I am not going to have to vacuum or deal with the cord. It finds its way back to its home. So it's not just for educators in the robot land.
Have you named it?
Haven't named it.
Yeah.
Check back in for our next show.
I will. We're going to have the robot review.
Yeah.
And then one other for me is learning pods. And Mike, I'm going to pitch this to you in a second to talk about. But one application of this is the idea of podcast as or audio really, as a learning medium. So I think hopefully folks who are in this session, some of you may have just wandered in here, but like folks who are in here have at least a passing interest in podcasts. Podcasts are right now largely for entertainment value, but increasingly so I think we see there being a real educational application of audio as a very different medium than video or than anything offline. So, Micah, this was one of your predictions for 2019.
Yeah.
And a term that we've used. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's the idea, it ties to the screen-based thing anyway. Like, your eyes are really important, but frequently they have to be occupied with other things. So like you're driving, or you're cleaning up around your house, or you're just on the go in life, and those are opportunities to learn. Like those are opportunities to actually continue to kind of immerse yourself in content. And the other thing that's great about it is the variable speed aspect to listening to content. So you can actually consume content at accelerated speed, and a lot of the audio is getting smarter, so you can actually listen much faster to start consuming more through your ears, which we affectionately refer to as our learn holes.
They're learn holes, yeah. It's where the learning goes in.
Yeah. But yeah, we have about 5 minutes left, so we can continue to riff on these themes or these concepts. We're also happy to take. I think the microphone works there. So
microphone is hot, so go. Feel free to go and
your voice might get on a podcast, which is exciting. So.
And if our listeners who are listening to this don't hear any questions from the audience, it's because there are so many that we had to cut.
Yes,
had to just cut them from the actual show
Time
release.
is ticking. That's precious.
So what else do we have? We have Education 2020 was one of your predictions, Brandon. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So education is this is my prediction that for 2019 that education will be put on the ballot for 2020. So we have obviously a presidential election in the U.S. here in 2020. That really kicks off in earnest in 2019. It's already a crowded field, particularly on the Democratic side. And my thought here, which I think has already been evidenced by the candidates who are in the fray, is that people need a platform that is something other than just not this guy. And that there's lots of things on education around charter schools, around free college for everyone, around teacher unions, labor, standardized testing. There's a lot of things that I think are going to be interesting topics, and not everyone, even on the left, is in the same place on this. So I will tell you, I've said this on the show, I'm a little less optimistic about actual policy change. I think education gets out there and then sometimes falls to the wayside when we actually have our elected officials in office. But I do think that it's going to be more in the conversation, more in the zeitgeist, in the milieu. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it'll probably obviously it'll stick around right into 2020. So this one will probably be back on our brackets a year from now.
That's also my intent. There's like if you pick things that if they don't happen this year, you can just say, well, just next year.
Yeah.
Just keep placing the bets.
That's why it's like futurist. It's great to be a futurist because you're like, I'm just not right yet. Like that's you're never wrong. Just not right yet. Do we think we should get some some audience engagement here to see if we can identify who's likely to win, which of these is likely to win?
You want to get applause?
Yeah, I think can we do is we've got, so these are also, you're warm, so the answer is yes.
Yeah.
As the folks who are here are warming up your engagement vehicles, we have this bracket, this is bracketed, so the brain science is a number 1 seed.
Yes.
Going against JOMO as a number 2 seed. So,
a number 16.
A number 16 seed, excuse me, yeah. So we have those on each of these. I don't think we can take 16.
Cherry pick a few of them.
Yeah, do you want to lead the applause section?
Yeah, sure. So let's begin. You just mentioned it, so folks are primed.
Yeah.
So we're gonna say 2 things, and we want to applaud for one versus the other. All right. So in terms of the trend in the next year, who's on the side of brain science and learning? Nice. I think the technical term for that would be a smattering.
A smattering, yeah.
Yeah. And then who's on the side of JOMO?
Interesting.
I'd say that's a smattering plus.
I think that's a smattering plus.
But well, make sure you vote. You know, like this is the importance of voting, right? So make sure you
it's
vote.
non-scientific because it could just be that there are the louder clappers,
That's
the more
true.
enthusiastic clappers on the Domo.
Clappers.
There's
yeah.
someone's pointed at someone in the audience is a very enthusiastic clapper.
Yes.
Do you want to do one more?
Yeah. Any of these, Ashley, strike your interest?
Yeah, so I keep going back to just thinking about interactive everything and nerd power. Super cool that nerd power is on here, and
Yeah.
I want to continue to see that progress forward versus rolling back. But interactive everything is table stakes. Has
Right.
to be interactive. It has to be in real time. I expect things to happen as I say they need to. So, I'd like to see what the audience thinks about that.
All right, let's do it.
All right, interactive everything. All right, pretty good, pretty good. What about nerd power? There is one loud
I think
clapper
you're
in the
more
room.
enthusiastic around nerd power.
That guy's a nerd. I can tell. I know
But,
that guy actually.
but if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
one vote per clap, I don't know. We'll have to consult our rules committee. These votes are non-binding.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interactive everything.
Interactive everything. It's kind of an interesting idea. So that's who we are. Trending in Education is the name of our show. We're pretty active on Twitter at Trending in Ed. You'll see that activity around Trending in Ed. We've already been posting since we've been here. Trendingineducation.com is where you can go and download us on iTunes, Stitchers, the whole nine. Google, TuneIn, Podbean, Overcast. Dan, our producer in the back, does a great job making this stuff available. Definitely catch up with us. If you want a bracket, Dan's got paper brackets. It's a nice cocktail hour kind of icebreaker. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
It's been
and
great.
any final thoughts?
Yeah, just this is what we like to do. We like to talk about what's trending, to both to see it and help, ideally help influence it. So if you have things you'd like to talk about, it will be up here afterwards. Thanks very much, and happy trending.
Kosi Nelson, I am with In My Shoes.
Great. So we've already been talking a little bit, but could you give a brief description of what the company is and what the program is focused on?
Yes, we are reverse engineering and scaling success of ordinary people in underrepresented communities. And so we use storytelling and we pair that with research-based curricula to help young people find their own pathway to success.
What was the impetus for the start?
The impetus was, I was an educator at one point in time in the classroom, and my young people wanted to find other people that looked like them that had already traveled that pathway. And so we found that storytelling was just a powerful kind of medium to get the message across around what is possible for young people. And so we pair that with ed tech to scale it and to bring those stories into a classroom to help young people see themselves in success that's already demonstrated.
One of the things we talked about before we started recording was about the reach you can have with video and online, YouTube, Instagram video, whatever you might want to talk about. How have you seen your reach grow since you started this company?
Absolutely. And so originally, some of our navigators, we call them, that are doing the stories, they're mentoring one or two people at a time. And we're able to capture their stories, some of those nuggets that they share with that, one or two mentees, and we're able to share that with hundreds of people with technology. And so it's just so scalable for people to even scale their mentorship and scale their own success. And so
how do you connect the dots? Like, how do you take a story and get it to the right kid? How do you get it in the hands of the people you know need it most?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first piece is the educator has the ability to define the group that they're working with. So I'm working with African American men, I'm working with women from a rural community, and so we'll source the videos because they're tagged in that way so that we know that they'll be representative. The other kind of piece is that it's really authentic. And so that is the critical piece with storytelling, where it's not all about, celebrating the success, but it really is speaking about the path and being authentic about some of the challenges and trials that the navigators have been through, and young people really relate to that.
Outside of your product, paying attention to the learning and education space, we're here at South by Southwest EDU. What are some trends that you have your eye on that may influence your business or may just be something in the classroom you think is interesting in this year?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously technology is leveraging proven education strategies. What we're finding, and part of our angle, is to really integrate this idea of SEL and social emotional learning. And so we're finding a trend where instead of it being as direct, ed tech providers are like integrating the concepts of SEL into their work, which is just phenomenal. And so focusing on perseverance, on grit, and some of those kind of leadership skills that we know are so critical to pair with the academic skills. So I see that trend more and more as I go to conferences like this.
So my name is Vincent Routhier. I'm the CEO and founder of LU Interactive Playground. It's been a crazy and awesome story. So we did a prototype of this idea of creating an immersive environment, giant interactive wall in a gymnasium 2 years ago. And when that prototype was put online on, I think it was February 3rd, 2017, got about 1 million views over one night of that video. So we started to organize ourselves and decided to turn this into a product. But I'm a father of 2 girls, 4 and 6 years old, and my older one got in school this year. But 2 years ago, I was starting to wonder, like, what would be my role as a father in their education journey. And so I started to go in schools and talk with innovators in education to see where things were going. And I realized that school didn't much change from the time I was in primary school and elementary school. So I decided to use my professional skills that were about how can, like, telling immersive stories and engaging kids in like kids museum exhibits, and to maybe bring this knowledge into school. And yeah, that was a long answer to your quick question.
No, that was amazing. And the actual like form factor and the experience, it's like you're in a gym class and there's a interactive wall, and then the kids are playing with balls that hit like almost like a projected image on the wall that is sort of interactive in some way.
That's a really good way of putting this. Actually, this idea of transforming the gymnasium into a giant interactive playground comes through using different types of multimedia equipment in the gymnasium. So we installed to the ceiling permanently 3D cameras to be able to detect the balls on the wall where the people in the gym. We have a video projector that projects a giant 20 feet wide image on the wall in the gymnasium, and we control the lights in that gymnasium so we can have a nice projection, so we don't light up the walls but the floor, so it's safe for the kids to engage in physical activity. But when you lose a point in a game, the gym can turn red for 2 seconds. So this idea of extending the screen itself to the full space of the court of the basketball in terms of size is something really engaging. And then we combine this with like sounds, musics and effects. And so this gymnasium, what we've been told from some kids, that they have the feeling to be in a video game. Mm-hmm. And this idea of the video game in a physical education class seems a little bit like contradictory,
yeah.
if I pronounce it right.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of taking the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. Like you use this idea of immersivity for the kids to engage them in activities that that looks like what they do when they play video games, but physically they are engaged at a really high level. And I think it's a really cool way to engage them and make them maybe more passionate about school and curious about stuff. And
and part of what was cool that I saw too is like there's actual like math content and instructional design that's going into the game. So some of them just seem like games, but what I found really interesting was like you could be like sort of doing your phys ed while learning math or while understanding some of those more abstract concepts. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was an eye-opener type of moment I had when I read the book Spark from Tom Ratey. The idea, he's coming from a psychiatry background and neurology background, and there are lots of research that prove that a healthy mind is in a healthy body. Like if you train your body physically and you're fit, your brain is fit as well. And this idea of engaging, there was in that book a case study about Naperville, a school district in Illinois that had 19,000 kids trained on a physically like a really high physically level, and their performance are outstanding any other school district in the US. And so this idea of having fitter kids and better brain is kind of a little bit even more going, it's going in the opposite direction than most school districts are doing right now, eliminating PE and even arts and music. And I think bringing this back as something really central can be really beneficial even on the test grade at the end of the year.
And we've talked about the importance of play and like having unstructured time. And this is a nice blend of some structure, because there's a game designer or instructional designer who built the interactive experience, but then the kids, they don't know that they're learning. They're just playing. And I would say, like, you know, our listeners can try to imagine it, but if they want to see what it's like, how do they find this on YouTube or Facebook or your website?
I'm pretty sure that Googling LU Interactive Playground will probably bring hundreds of newspaper stories and videos, and we have many of our videos that went viral, like more than 10 million views, and so that's probably easy to find. Our website is www.play-lu.com. And maybe on the content side, what I could add is that we have different ways of approaching when we design like content and activities we want to build in the platform. So we are working on curriculum-based activity, so kinesthetic learning, so learning mathematics through movement instead of being seated passively in the classroom has lots of benefits. And so curriculum-based learning is one of the core elements we were working on. Health and wellness. So we released a few weeks ago a guided meditation application. So imagine a giant gymnasium with hundreds of kids doing a 10-minute meditation session in a gymnasium, maybe after a PE class or before an important exam. There are lots of different benefits, and using that new immersive gym to do something that even doesn't have any interactivity with the screen can be really, really powerful and resourceful for the kids. We're working on PE and fitness application, obviously, some utilities. So time management in a gymnasium is really crucial. So interval timing, so teacher can build routines of activities. So like 1 minute of running, 30 seconds of jumping jack, and the colors in the gym will change on those different sessions. So you're running, you know, the gym turns green, it means that you have to stop running and start doing your jumping jack. And so we're trying to build different types of applications and utilities and activities, so it can be utilized by the whole school.
That's very cool. And last question, any thoughts about taking this out into like the mall or the Chuck E. Cheese or like the arcade? Because it does, you can see how fun it is and how engaged the kids are. So I love the gym angle, but any thoughts on other places where this might make sense?
Yeah, since the beginning of that project, we're kind of pulled into lots of different markets and opportunities. But the main reason why we started this was education. So right now our focus is elementary school and middle school, and we really want to deliver as much value as we can in those fields. And building a game for a Burger King waiting line is not the same than building educational activities and content, and focus is key in a small company and a small team like ours. So I think there's nice potential application in other markets. I think there are more natural markets like the fitness market and the educational market with the PE and everything is something probably interesting. And there's a huge opportunity for elderly people.
I was thinking the same thing.
Seniors people, because they want to keep their brain active, they want to get healthier and fitter to live longer. And they want to spend time with their grandchildren. Right. And I think that could be really useful and like really powerful it could be a fun way to bring those grandchildren and spend some time with them.